I hope you're having a lovely one, whatever it is that you're doing. I am just having a couple of hours to myself to plan. And I don't usually plan with red lipstick, but I wanted to maybe distract from how tired my eyes are. So I'm just sitting on my sofa and I've got a big piece of paper and a pen out. And I thought I would share some great questions that I'm sitting with. So as we go into July next week, so the second half of 2024, I'm asking myself some big questions. Where next? What's working? What's not? What do I need to change? What do I want more of? What do I want less of? You can slow down that on the replay if you want those questions as well. And one of the biggest things that I do in my planning is before I get to the stage of doing that, I want this or I want to buy that, or creating my vision essentially, I often come up with where my gaps are. What are the bits that are a bit wobbly? What needs tightening up? What's going on? What's being a repeatable occurrence that is just not serving me? How am I not helping myself? Where are my weak points? And I know that sometimes these are big questions, but do you know what? If you are willing and brave enough to ask the big questions, you'll always get the big answers, which means you can take the big action and get the big results. So it works out in a really brilliant way. It's just getting over that first step. But I'm always thinking, where am I going next? And what is it that I'm aiming for? What's going to be my version of success? And so in this circumstance, I'm really looking at the next 6 months. I often have a bit of a year plan, but I tend to do that more in November, which is my birthday month, and then think about the year ahead of where I want to be by the next birthday coming along. But for the purposes of this exercise, I'm thinking 1st of July to the 31st of December. And where do I want to be on that 31st of December? Not necessarily geographically, but in my life, where do I want to have seen the shifts? And what do I want to put in place? What joy do I want to have brought in? So one of the things that I then consider is, what is going to get me there? How am I going to do that? And often there are many things that I can do independently that I can put in place. For example, my 15-minute a day habit of running has been incredible for in all kinds of different ways. But that's something I'm definitely going to be continuing. But then I'm also looking at, what is that support that I need, that I maybe need to welcome in, that I need to get specific on so I can ask the right questions to make it happen. So this might be a new process. This might be some new technology. This might be working with somebody on a one-off project. This might be working with somebody who can help and support me. It might be buying a course. It might be booking a ticket for an event or something like that. And I definitely went through a stage in the early days of 2012, 2013, when I was training and then newly qualified as a coach. A lot of the coaches in America were doing so many freebies. Come and join this free workshop. Come and do this. We're going to go live every single day. And over the years, even though those things were brilliant in the beginning, over the years, I've become much more discerning about what is the support that I actually need. Because otherwise we can keep learning and like absorbing more information. But unless we actually have time and space and experimental time to implement, you're just learning it. And this morning, I had this exact conversation with my 8-year-old. I'd made this banana bread. And because I was up early, I didn't use my mixer, which was a big mistake. I thought I could just kind of move it around. And actually, when I got it out the oven, it was tasty. All the flavors were there, but it was really dense in texture. But I didn't want to wake everybody up by putting the mixture on, my mixer on. But I did say to my son, it's okay. It's quite nice. They said it was really good, so that was nice. But I said, I know what I would do differently next time. I already know that. And by doing it, I got that information. And I think there's a lot to be said for this, is that sometimes we try and think our way out of things, or we try and be so in our head about a process. It's going to go like this, and then we're going to do this next step and the next, etc. And often we have to tweak as we go. That's the whole thing. You know, when you think about planning a holiday, for example, you can have a vague idea of, like, I remember once as a child, I think once or twice, it was no more than twice, we went to America, and that was a big, big thing. It was enormous for the family. And there was a sense of making sure, and we went with another family, and there was a case of making sure that everybody got what they wanted from the trip. And we would have like a sit down meeting, the 8 of us, like, we're going to do this. This is really important to me. I'd like to go here. And then when you got there, sometimes you might be like, well, I thought I needed half a morning for that, but we don't. We went on one ride and then we went home. Or actually, this is so much better than the travel magazine, because there were no websites or anything at that point. We're going to go there again, like it really suits us. Or we saw a different restaurant and we'd like to try that. So that's how you get to know things. So when I'm talking about this planning stage, I'm talking about it in quite a loose way as well. I think having some kind of structure or some idea is great, but then having that flexibility as well is incredibly powerful. So over the years, I've done all kinds of training and support and work with people for various amounts of time. I've worked one-on-one with people. I signed up for a year-long program. I've done masterminds. I've done 6-month programs, one-day events in London, you name it, I've done it. And many of them have served a purpose. And I've always gained something. Some, in retrospect, I'm like, did I really need to do that? Or that was a lot of money. Did I get the return on that? I'm not so sure. But generally, I've been really impressed with my decision making. No, but by the results that I've got by following a certain process. So here's what I have noticed. There have been some times when I've needed that short, snappy, get in there, do the thing, support. And then there have been other times when I've known I've wanted or needed to make a bigger shift. And so therefore that has been reflected in my level of commitment and the thing that I'm looking for. And I'm going to walk you through both ways today, because knowing this for me as the client means that I operate in this way as the coach, you know, who's able to offer you this kind of support. I have strategy sessions. I have Ask Me Anything ones. And then I have people who go, no, that's not enough. I want a month. I want 100 days. And I've had people who've worked with me for an entire year as well. So neither, I think, is wrong or better than the other. It's always about what you need in terms of your level of support. So the first 5 points I want to make are for the drop-in, essentially. The quick, snappy, I'm going to go and do this workshop, this piece of training. I'm going to do it and then leave. The first thing is, by doing a drop-in, it means you get started. And there is this conversation online all the time about going all in. And often the way that people describe going all in is actually incredibly toxic, and it's not great on your nervous system. People say that you have to go all in to the point of, you know, having to sell your house and sleep on your mum's floor, or have zero on your bank account, have your back so far against the wall before you do something. And yes, those stories are sexy and clickbaity on podcasts, but that is not how I want to live in this sort of stage. And so by doing a drop-in by beginning means you get started and you make a massive move. And that might be enough of a going all in for you. You might be new to this particular type of business. You might not have invested in yourself before. You might have never done anything for yourself. You know, usually you're the one who's doing all the other things. I hear this from mums all the time where it's like, wow, this is about me. I'm usually taking my daughter to dancing or my son to football or my other daughter to karate. And so to have this time for me, it feels really good, feels really exciting. And so that going all in could be saying, right, instead of my mother-in-law asking me what I want for my birthday and then her buying me a nice candle, I'm going to have that conversation with her of saying, please may I have the cash because instead of the candle, because I'd like to put it towards my business development or doing a course or doing something like that. And so it allows you to going from I'm not doing anything to having like it feels like a protein shake almost, like it's in, it's happening, it's building, it's going. The second thing, you will begin to get some answers to your questions. And maybe you've been in this situation for a while of, I don't know what to do. I don't know the next step. I don't know. And this happens so often with my clients. They will say things like, I've been stuck for a while. I can't make progress. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to focus on. And it just feels really woolly and like they're going round and round in circles. When you do the equivalent of a drop-in or a strategy session or an ask me anything, sit down with somebody, you essentially take all the big questions, shove them on the table, and slowly but surely, it's like you begin to pick up the answers to them. And of course, there will always be some big questions that are still floating around and maybe some big questions that you can't answer. You know, sometimes people want to say, do you think this will be a success? And it's like, I don't know. I mean, from what you're saying, it sounds like it absolutely could be. But we need to work through the process in order to know the answers to that. So if you are somebody right now who has all of those big questions in your head and you're not making progress and you feel like you've got obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, having a strategy session or an Ask Me Anything can be a great way to essentially spilling all your questions out and then beginning to change them, almost turn them over and finding the answers. Number 3, a strategy session, a drop-in, Ask Me Anything will give you a reality check. And that's always fascinating because as much as I love a success story, I love hearing how people have moved through the world, how they've met adversity, how they've come back from a difficult time. That we can learn from, it always says, there's this phrase, isn't it? Success leaves clues. And it's absolutely true. But there is also a major bit of you in there. And you understanding who you are, what your strengths are, where you fall down, where you repeat the same patterns, where you're limiting yourself, old obstacles that come up again and again, your patterns of behavior that don't serve you or do, the kind of ways you like to work. By making that first step and saying, right, I'm going to do something about this. I'm going to get support, even if it's just like an hour session with somebody, you get a whole sense of a 360 reality. It's almost like those right move tours, you know, when you can do the video tours and you step into the house and you can pan round and you can see it. And it's like, oh, okay, there's the floor pan. Oh, I go down here to the kitchen. Oh no, turn around, go back. There's a bedroom there. That's what we want to do when we are working out where we go next. So often people will just say, I just want the dream. I'm manifesting it. I'm talking about it every day. I'm visualizing it. But we have to know where we are right now and what's going on. Number 4, A drop-in session, a strategy session can be incredible as a springboard. I was watching a little girl on one of these videos the other day, and it documented her from being 1 to 7. And she was a gymnast, this little girl. And her 1-year-old was so cute. You know, she was doing kind of rolling or like balancing and moving. And when it showed the videos of her being 7, she was doing the bars, she was flipping, I don't know the technical terms, she was on one of those balance beams and she could do a backflip off there, incredible. But I noticed that point where she got the bounce. When somebody was like, okay, you need to run and then you need to put both feet here, plant them so you can flip. And that is a really essential and a quick way to get results and increase your chances. And this is what we're all about. There is so much in, out, like I was doing it and then I'm not. I'm going to talk about that in a second. And knowing that you can come back to this springboard anytime, that if I incorporate this springboard as part of my progress, as part of my development, then it's going to make everything more predictable, more reliable, and you'll start to build those muscles of being able to do it. Number 5, you might need something short, sharp, and snappy. And my VIP days are brilliant for that. The amount of times where I've had clients who'll say, I don't want this in 3 months. I want the results quickly and I want them now and I need to get these sorted. And I did another one a little while ago and my client came to me and she was like, I've got 17 things on my list. I'm ready. And I love that because we could chug through them all in the same day. But also because it was focused time together, we could link them. We knew where we were going. It wasn't a case of like, oh, well, we'll cover that on week 14. She didn't have week 14. She was too busy. She wanted to do other things and really get that progress. So if you know that you are ready to go to that next level, a strategy session, and Ask Me Anything, a VIP day, if you're impatient and a bit verukasol occasionally, or maybe more than you would like to know, I definitely can be too, and it's like, I want this now. Enough's enough. I've been trying and muddling through for this first half of the year, and I'm done. That's it. No more. Those parts of my offerings could be really useful. Okay, now let's go into the block of time. So I guess the commitments that I've done that I can talk about have been, what's been the minimum? So I've done something for a month, like a 30-day thing. I have done, what else? I've done a 10-week. So last year I did a 10-week acting course every Tuesday, 6 till 9, homework in between, but you have to be there every Tuesday for 10 weeks. Really loved that. I've done 3-month programs. I've done 6-month programs. And my biggest one yet was working with somebody for a year. And those moments have often come when I've known there has been a bigger goal and a stretchier goal, a more unknown goal. And I've had that realization that it's needed time and energy. And as much as people talk on the internet of like, I just built this in a weekend. Look, I've created a business in a weekend. I knew that I needed some more time. And I've had that moment when I've known I wanted to start a new chapter. But I've also done that when my capacity has been quite limited. So having that sense of being supported, but not being able to take out like a whole day to do this has really worked for me. So this thing of wanting quick results is sometimes we have to be realistic with how long things are going to take. The next one, if you are bored of dabbling energy. So many of my clients get to this stage, and I've done it in my own life as well. When you are in and then you're out, and then you're thinking about it, and then you're in again, and you do it for a bit, and then you're out again. And this is the point that I came to with my running last year. I did not want to have a dabbling relationship with my health, my well-being, my fitness anymore. It had to become a non-negotiable for me. And the way that I've been able to navigate this is by having a little and often process to it. I've put parameters in place. It's 15 minutes every single day. And before, it was exercise when you feel like it, and when you don't. And that was not in keeping with my goal. And there are so many of my clients who have maybe had some successes, like, oh, I did work with this coach for 3 months, and yeah, it was great at the time, but then things fell away, and like I didn't know what I was doing. Or sometimes they have a bad experience, like, well, I did this 6-month masterclass mastermind, and actually my confidence wobbled through it because they just weren't my kind of people. Like, there are so many things that are going on. But what you want to do is to find that even relationship with your progress. So it's not dabbling, it's not huge highs, really low lows. You want to find that consistency, because if you want to grow, unless you do that business model where it's like, I work 6 months of the year and then I disappear for 6 months. I don't think many of us can operate in that way, or maybe we can, but we're not quite yet there yet. So you want to have that consistent energy and not dabbling anymore. Number 8, it's really reassuring when you show up for yourself and you know you're going to get that support from somebody or from a group for the foreseeable future. So I remember when I signed up for this 12-month program, in retrospect, it was maybe a mistake. So as in, I had a 5-month daughter, I paid my first bit in January, I got started in the February, and then March 2020, the world shut down. My partner didn't have work. I was the only breadwinner in the family, and I still had a very tiny baby. And I just created a huge monthly outgoing for myself. And you would argue like, oh, well, maybe that was not the right time. But equally, I thought, well, I've signed a contract now and I've made a commitment to do this. So knowing that, let's flip it around, and let's flip it around quickly. I'm going to really lean on the fact that during this uncertain time, to be taken care of, to have somebody in my corner for the next 12 months, it's going to be invaluable. And it was. There was a hugely supportive group. We met all of the time. There were like 3 calls a week, and I was really in that momentum. And hearing other people's progress and their questions, like, I learned so much from that. And I think that when you are growing something, or when you're moving out of your comfort zone, we are seeking that reassurance from people who get it. And one of the things that people say in coaching sessions with me so frequently is, I've never told anybody that before. And they'll say it at the end of the session, and it always surprises me and delights me, because I can see how good it feels for them being able to say it aloud and making it real. But I also know that when you change and when you progress, it's sometimes uncomfortable, because your friends, your family might be used to you being seen in a particular way, or you operating in a certain way. And the fact that you go in and change and you mix things up a little bit is maybe a bit unsettling for them. Maybe they're a bit worried for you. Maybe they're a bit nervous or triggered by the process. So having somebody in your corner saying, it's all right, this is completely normal, and you're doing it and it's happening, and celebrating these big wins that if you told your friends and family, they might just think you were a big old show off. Or they just think that you'd robbed a bank, or whatever it might be. So finding that tribe, finding those people who are for you is absolutely key. Number 9, you want to go broader, wider, deeper, and really see what you're made of. This, for me, again, I've had moments in my life where I've had that let's go energy. And sometimes it's been a conflict. In my mind, I've been going, let's go. I've got to figure this out. Even though simultaneously I've been like, but I'm so tired. I hope this is bloody going to work, because I've been trying and I'm picking myself up again and again. When I went to drama school when I was 18, I was in that let's go energy. I'd never lived in London before. I didn't know anybody in London. I was moving down by myself. I didn't know what it was going to be. But I also knew that the kind of training that I wanted to have, it needed to be a drama school for me. And that's not the case now, but in those days we didn't really have social media or the internet, and that was the way to go. And I knew that in order to achieve my goal, that was the route that I wanted to go down. And this is the thing, when you are thinking about your goals, you're thinking about where you go next. It's not just a step-by-step plan, and it's maybe not linear, it's maybe not easy. It is twists and turns and round we go again. It's like you are on a waltzer. But knowing that, and knowing what it's going to take of you to go broader and wider and deeper, there have been so many times where I've said to myself, why have I made this so difficult for myself? Why couldn't I just be satisfied to do a job, for example, ask no questions, turn up, do the same thing every single day, sit in the same chair, do the same thing, work through my to-do list, and then come home and enjoy my holidays and weekends, and that's it? Why can't I just have that very functional, they pay me, I show up and do these things, transactional relationship? Because I don't want that. And I don't desire to operate in that way. And so knowing that, it's meant I've had to ask different questions. I've had to have different level of supports. I've had to I got to work with a client for a year instead of going on holiday with friends. There've been decisions over the years that I've made because I've always known what that vision is, where I'm going. And so to bob along and perhaps do something a bit surface, a bit like in, out, having a go, it's not enough, because I'm not going deep enough and wide enough and broad enough into the process. And maybe that's you. Maybe you are ready to really step things up. And not in that kind of dabbly, like, oh, I'll just pop in for half a morning and work on my business. You want to be in the process. You want to be doing it. You want that focus and that assurance and that other pair of eyes and ears on your business. If that's the case, send me a message. Number 10, to be accountable and supported and have that understanding. It's so easy in our lives to get distracted, overwhelmed, frustrated, to have a bad day, so therefore you feel the setback, and then sometimes it all just gets too much and we forget why we're doing this, we forget how capable we are, we get a bit woolly, like, what is this goal that I'm trying to do? It's suddenly not as clear anymore. And having somebody by your side for an extended period of time is incredibly powerful, because one of the things that I say is, I'm going to repeatedly remind you of what you said you wanted. And it's so easy if we're working as an individual to just write stuff on your to-do list, write stuff on your goal list. Like this year, hopefully, I'm going to put it out there. I would love this to happen. And that's why when I talk about support, I'm there to support you in the days for you where you feel excited, you feel expansive. Like the amount of times where I wake up and I see something on my phone and they're like, oh my gosh, I've sent the email, I've done it, or I made the first sale in the night, or whatever it might be. They're in that excited, connected moment where they go, this is what I was born to do. I am also here for those days where you say, I do not know if this is worth it. I can't get out of this funk. I'm doubting everything. Somebody's asked me for a refund. I don't know why. She seemed to really like what I was doing, whatever the situation is. And I think we have to remind ourselves that however in flow or on purpose or in alignment that we are with our business and life, the way that life and business operate is that there are going to be some tricky times sometimes. And when we are left to our own devices and we're struggling with them independently, that's when we can go off track. That's when it's easy to opt out. It's easy to say, like with the drop-in session, you know, when you might go, it's always the case with baby classes, isn't it? Where they go, come along and do a free trial. And you're like, yeah, I'll do a free trial. Lovely little drop in, see if the baby likes this. And there's this kind of flexible, casual energy about it. The shift into saying, I'm going to be here in this church hall Tuesday at 11 a.m. for the next 12 weeks, that is a different vibe. And so going back to what you said you wanted, it might need an extra level of support, because what you said you wanted, maybe you've been saying this for ages, but yet you still don't feel any closer. You might have drop-in dabbling energy with it, like, hi, oh, I see you. Yes, I'm doing this. And then it gets too hard. Or a couple of days go by, or a week, or a month, or you get busy, or you get overwhelmed, or you forgot that you had the dream in the first place because it feels like it's at the back of the wardrobe. That is when a long-term commitment can really help and support you. You know what you need. And if you don't, you can set up a call with me. We can chat about your goals, and maybe I can make some suggestions in terms of levels of support and things that would be useful. There are also many different types of personalities that I work with. So sometimes people will say to me, I do not want another online course. Do not sell me an online course. Even if you give me bonus materials from your portfolio, I am not interested. I don't want to get involved. It's not my vibe in the slightest. No problem. I'm not going to sell you an online course. I'm not going to sell you anything that you don't want to buy or I don't think would be useful. Equally, there are some people who will say, I think I need to work with you for 100 days, and they'll tell me all the things that they want to do. And I'll say, I don't think you do. I think if you focus and we really get a clear plan together, I think you can do this in a month. So this conversation about where we go next is about you really articulating where you are going. So these vague statements that I hear all the time of like, I just want to make more money. I just want to be seen by the right people. I just want a bit more freedom and flexibility in my business. These are literally umbrella phrases. We have to understand what they mean, how they're measurable. How will we know that we are doing it? So that freedom and flexibility question, for example, on delving into it, it might be, you want to take all day Friday off. Great. Take all day Friday off. Enjoy it. So therefore, what do we need to put in place Monday to Thursday to make sure that that's okay, to make sure that that's doable? So you don't have a moment on Thursday evening of like, oh my gosh, it's 5:30 and I've got to do all of these things. I'm going to have to work my Friday, aren't I? Again, going back to, I'm going to remind you of what you said you wanted. It's always the case with your business goals and with your life goals. Again, it's so easy to opt out, to be flaky, to be like, oh, I'll just do it this once, to have loose boundaries. And I really want to hold that space for you, because if you've got this far in the video, I know that there's something that I'm sharing that is like beginning to stir things like, oh, okay, I might need to think about, right, okay, yeah, there's something going on here. Trust this process. You are right. It is trying to tell you something. It's trying to remind you that you're important, your goals are important, and where you go next matters. And it's so easy to put these things off and say, well, you know, the state of the world at the moment, or the cost of living crisis, or I'm a bit busy, or I'm a bit tired, or whatever. There are moments in life where we are all at capacity. And if somebody gave us one more thing to take on and make space for, we might have to slide down the radiator and have a big cry. Those moments need to be tended to. Those are not the moments to say, do you know what? I'm going to challenge myself beyond belief and move out of my comfort zone. No, that is not the time. But what I'm referring to are those moments where you know that you've got a bit of space, a bit of wiggle room. Maybe things are a bit comfy cozy at the moment, and yet you are giving yourself excuses. I say this all of the time. If you want an excuse not to do something, your brain is so obedient. What? You want an excuse? No problem, no problem. Like they go into the database. Okay, by the way, I haven't got just one excuse for you. I've come up with 6, and here they are, because that one will work, and then you can layer it with this, and then it will just we'll keep everything safe, yeah? Keep everything safe, and yeah, you don't have to do the thing. You have to question whether those excuses are true or false. So, and how much you want it. Another part to the story. I've often felt like that in conversations when I've had conversations about growth or success or them wanting to do a certain thing. And I'm always very kind and compassionate, and I would never assume, and unless somebody is my client, I wouldn't overstep a mark. It's not for me to say. But sometimes I will leave the conversation and think to myself, I don't think they want it though. They like the idea of it, but they don't want it enough. Their why isn't big enough to move the needle, to move into action. And so, as a takeaway from today, I want you to think about what you want for this second half of the year, what you want to be, do, have, and feel. And get really clear about it, get really excited about it, get really emotional and get stuck into it. Don't allow yourself to say these wishy-washy phrases of like, I don't know, I'd just like to carry on the way I am. More of the same, please. What do you mean? Identify them, label them, really get clear about what it is. And then work out what kind of support that you need. Do you need that short, snappy, I need a plan, let's do it, let's have 2 hours together, great, come over to my Work With Me page. If you want something longer and you want to have a chat, you want to work it out, again, great. I love doing these long-term relationships as well. We can meet up in London face to face. I always choose very nice venues across the centre of London, or we can work on Zoom because I work with people globally. It's entirely up to you. But whatever you get from today's conversation, whatever next steps that you are thinking about, I want you to take them and not just sit on the idea. Because whilst you are doing this and sitting back, somebody really mediocre, somebody less kind, less intelligent, less heart-centered, less considerate, less generous and open-hearted is doing what you want to do. And so imagine what could happen to your industry, your mission, your why, your community, your family, wherever you need to go to get in touch and connected with that goal. What do you need to do in order to say, right, I am going to do it? And I know I keep saying this year is my year and like I really want this. Where's my action? Am I doing this? Am I getting honest with myself? Am I being open to another way? Or am I just saying the same old thing again? Because that's easy. It's familiar. Again, your brain goes, we've talked about this before. We love having this chat where we're stuck and familiar. We go round and round in circles. That's when your brain goes, yes, 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 let's stay here because it's familiar. You have to make the decision to reframe the story, to believe that there is another way, there's another path, there's a possibility. There's something that you can do right now. Next steps. go and check out my Work With Me page and send me a message. Let's set up a chat. Let's get started. If it's something that you want to look at, the first week of July, it starts on a Monday as well, first week of July, always a good sign. And let's make some mega moves. Let's not get to December and go, well, maybe it wasn't my year. It wasn't your year because you decided it wasn't. Let's be open to the possibility that things could change, and things could change really quickly too. Lots of love, and I'll speak to you very soon. Any questions, DM me, let me know down below, or message me what you're going to take away from today's mini workshop. Lots of love. See you soon. Bye.